I'm Lita. Standing in the middle of the dining room, the tense silence was almost suffocating. Shattered glass scattered across the hardwood floor, a stark reminder of how quickly the situation had spiraled out of control. Just moments ago, my father had pushed my 10-year-old daughter, Lily, off her chair. His words, "That seat is for my real grandkid," echoed in my ears like a chilling refrain. 12 pairs of eyes were on me, waiting for my reaction. In the corner of my eye, I saw my mother's wine glass slip from her fingers and crash to the ground, but I didn't break my gaze from my father. The shock on his face was undeniable as he stared at me, perhaps finally realizing the error of his ways. 6 hours earlier, I was busy packing the car. I own a small graphic design studio in a neighboring town. It's not much, just a handful of employees, but I've built it from the ground up. In my family, though, I was often overlooked. I was the quiet one, the one who took care of things when no one else wanted to. Lily sat in the back seat, her seatbelt fastened tightly. She held a carefully wrapped gift in her lap, paper adorned with colorful unicorns. "Do you think Grandpa Henry will like it, Mom?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with hope. I glanced at her in the rear view mirror. She'd spent weeks working on a painting of our entire family. "He'll be very lucky to have it," I replied. Lily, my adopted daughter, was the light of my life. I'd met her in the foster system when she was just 2. The moment I saw her, with her wild curls and infectious laugh, I knew she was meant to be mine. I went through all the legal processes, and the day the adoption was finalized was the happiest of my life. We drove to my childhood home, a charming 3-story house at the end of Elmwood Drive. It had been in my family for generations, but things were not as they seemed. As we entered through the side door, the smell of roasting turkey and cinnamon filled the air. The living room was filled with the laughter of cousins and the sound of a basketball game on TV. My sister, Melissa, and her 2 sons, Jake and Tom, were there. When my father saw them, he lit up like a Christmas tree. "There are my boys," he boomed, pulling them into a tight hug. Lily stood beside me, clutching her gift. My father barely glanced at her, just giving a quick, "Watch your shoes on the rug." In the living room, Lily couldn't wait any longer. She walked up to my father and held out her gift. "Grandpa Henry, I made this for you." He was in the middle of talking to my uncle about fishing when he took the package. Without even looking at it, he set it on the side table. "Thank you, dear," he said, turning away. Lily stood there for a moment, a look of disappointment on her face. Melissa, sitting on the couch with a glass of wine, made a comment. "Oh, did you paint that yourself? How sweet." But there was a coldness in her voice. Lily nodded. "It's our whole family," she said. Melissa just smiled politely and went back to her phone. 6 years ago, my family's world almost fell apart. My father, a well-meaning but reckless man, had invested a large sum of money in a friend's failing business. When the business went under, the bank came after our family home at Elmwood Drive. I found out about the foreclosure notice when I visited my parents. A letter was sitting on the kitchen counter, half hidden under a newspaper. My father was in denial. He said he had a plan, but I knew he was just trying to save face. I was 28 at the time, and my business was just starting to take off. But I couldn't let our family lose the house. I used my savings and took out a second mortgage on my own apartment to buy the house from the bank. I hired a lawyer to handle the paperwork quietly, so my father's pride wouldn't be hurt. I told him I'd helped him refinance, and he believed me. Since then, I've been paying the property taxes, the maintenance costs, and everything else related to the house. My mother was the only one who knew the truth. I'd told her when she caught me signing the papers one day. She cried and begged me not to tell my father. "He'll never forgive himself," she said. As dinner approached, my mother started calling everyone to the table. My father took charge of the seating, just like he always did. "Jake, sit here by me. Tom, next to your brother. He pointed to the two comfortable chairs at the head of the table. Then he looked down the long table at the folding chair in the corner. Lily, you can sit over there. Melissa didn't even look up. There's a spot down here, honey, she said, not moving to make room. Lily walked to the folding chair without a word and sat down. She placed her napkin in her lap and folded her hands, waiting patiently. My father always loved to talk about our family heritage at holidays. He tapped his fork on his plate to get everyone's attention. You boys should know where you come from. The Andersons have a long history of hard work and land ownership. Blood is what ties us together, he said, his eyes never once looking at Lily. Lily, being the brave and curious soul she is, raised her hand slightly. Grandpa Henry, am I an Anderson? The table fell silent. My father cleared his throat and took a sip of water. Eat your dinner, dear, he said, and then turned to talk to Jake about a basketball game. I felt a knot form in my stomach. I'd been patient for 6 years, keeping the truth about the house to myself to protect my father's pride. But watching him ignore Lily's question was the last straw. I excused myself and went out onto the back porch. The cold air hit me like a slap in the face, but it helped clear my head. I took out my phone and called my lawyer, Mr. Thompson. We're still on for 7, right? I asked. Yes, Ms. Lita. I have the trust documents ready. All we need is your signature, he replied. I'd been planning this for months. I was going to put the house into a family trust, ensuring that my parents could live there for the rest of their lives, and that all the grandchildren, including Lily, would have an equal share in the future. When I went back inside, my aunt was trying to organize a family photo. Grandkids, come up front by Grandpa Henry for the picture, she said. Jake and Tom rushed to my father's side. Lily started to get up from her chair, but my father put his hand up. Just the boys. Let's keep it to the ones who carry the Anderson name, he said. My aunt's smile froze. She looked at me, then at Lily. For a moment, no one moved. Then my aunt forced a laugh. Oh, let's just get everyone. It's a family photo, after all. I walked over to Lily and held out my hand. Come help me check the pies, sweetie, I said. In the kitchen, Lily looked up at me with her big brown eyes. Mom, is it because I'm adopted? She asked. My heart broke. I got down on one knee and looked her in the eye. Some people think family is only about blood, but they're wrong. I chose you, Lily. You're my daughter, and that's a promise I made in a courtroom. No one at that table can change that, I said. She nodded slowly. Okay, Mom, she said, and I could see the relief in her eyes. Dinner was served, and my father started handing out small tokens to the boys. He gave Jake and Tom each a pocketknife, a family tradition passed down from his father. When he got to Lily's end of the table, he simply said, sorry, running low. But I saw the 2 extra pocketknives still in his box. Lily just kept eating her food, pretending like nothing was wrong. It was then that I started to question my plan. I'd been so focused on giving my father the security of the house, but maybe it wasn't the right thing to do. I told everyone I needed to get something from the car, but instead, I went to my old bedroom. I sat on the bed and took out the deed to the house and the photograph from the day of Lily's adoption. I looked at the picture of us, beaming outside the courthouse, and I knew what I had to do. When I came back downstairs, my father was showing Jake what it meant to be the head of the family. He pulled Jake up to his chair at the head of the table. You sit here someday, when you grow up and carry on the Anderson name, he said. Lily, who had been sitting at the end of the table, quietly got up and walked to the empty chair beside my mother. She just wanted to feel like a part of the family for once. But my father wasn't going to let that happen. Just as he was about to approach Lily, my phone buzzed. It was Mr. Thompson. I'm running early. I'll be there in 15 minutes, he said. I didn't have time to think. My father walked up to Lily's chair, put his hand on the back of it, and tipped it over. Lily fell to the floor, her plate of food spilling everywhere. "That seat is for my real grandkids," he said, his voice cold and calm. I could feel the anger inside me rising, but I forced myself to stay calm. I walked over to Lily and helped her up. I sat her back in the chair and looked my father directly in the eye. "Dad, we need to talk about this house." He was indignant. "This is my house. I've worked hard for it," he shouted. Melissa chimed in, "Lita, come on. He's right. You're making a scene." I took a deep breath and said, 6 years ago, this house was in foreclosure. You didn't refinance it. I used my savings and took out a second mortgage on my apartment to buy it from the bank. I've been paying for everything ever since." My father looked at me in disbelief. "You're lying," he said. My mother just sat there, tears streaming down her face. I reached into my pocket and laid the deed on the table, showing my name clearly printed on it. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Mr. Thompson was right on time. My father looked at the door, then at the deed, and then at me. His face turned a deep shade of red. "You can't do this to your own family," he roared. I stood up straight and said, "This house is mine. I was going to put it into a trust for all of you, but after what you've done to Lily, I can't just let it go. You and Mom can stay here, but it will be a proper lease, and Lily will be treated with respect." My father was speechless. For the first time, he realized the extent of my sacrifice and the depth of his own mistake. He sat down at the table, defeated. Lily, being the kind-hearted girl she is, reached out to my mother. "It's okay, Grandma," she said. My mother hugged her tightly, tears flowing even harder. In the end, we left that night, the cold air of Elmwood Drive clearing the tension from our minds. The events of the evening had taught us all a valuable lesson. Blood may determine our biological relationships, but it's the love, commitment, and the choices we make that truly define our families. And I knew that no matter what, Lily and I would always have each other.